What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. And today we have Chris from SphereOne. Today we're going to be talking about how they're simplifying the DeFi user experience with AI. Chris, welcome to the show. And perhaps you might want to start by introducing yourself and what you do at SphereOne.
Hey, Casey, thanks for having me. My name's Chris. I'm one of the co-founders of SphereOne. Essentially, what we're doing is we're building the future of DeFi largely with AI agents.
Cool. So you talk a bit about AI agents, right? Could you explain a bit more about how that works in simple terms for the audience to get an idea?
Yeah, exactly. So you can think of an AI agent as some personal helper or assistant. And essentially, what powers that is some base model or LLM that you'd maybe see on like a chat GPT or any of the other major LLM interfaces that are out there. And essentially what we do is we build really cool AI agents where we give these LLMs what's called function calling. When you ask an LLM to do something, we're empowering that to go execute both read and write actions with APIs and SDKs. So you can empower these agents to do really cool things by expanding that context window. And you can think of these AI agents as very modular things. So I could have an AI agent that helps me swap something on a DEX for Uniswap. I could have an AI agent that helps me bridge something across different blockchains. And by themselves, maybe these AI agents aren't super compelling, but when you mix and match these agents, you can do really novel things.
Cool. Now to your origin story, right? What inspired the creation of SphereOne and what kind of gaps in the market were you looking to fill? I think you've mentioned a bit earlier on already about how AI agents work.
Yeah, I think what really pushed us in this direction is essentially the rapid expansion of different chains and the movement of TVL with the rise of rollups as a service, modular chains, app chain paradigms. So we've kind of seen this massive explosion of the number of chains increasing, the diversity of chains increasing, and liquidity is continuing to spread out. And essentially what happened there is previously we were working on payments product and we were trying to figure out how we could scale to all these chains and new infrastructure components because by that point we'd already pulled in integrations for 18 different chains including non-EVM blockchains like Solana, like Sui, and some of these app chain frameworks like DFK chain. So DeFi Kingdoms has their own subnet, and each of these chains was just a major uphill battle for us to go support, and the kind of appetite for our customers was endless for chain support. So we had like 40 different chains in our backlog with tons of revenue attached to that. We wanted to find a way to better support these chains and integrate these different protocols that are essential to supporting these chains a lot faster. We got really good at doing a chain per month, but with 40 chains in your backlog, that will take you about 3 or 4 years to move through those. And that wasn't good enough for our customers. So we started tinkering around with multi-agent workflows using RAG to essentially help us with research tasks on adding new chains. And then very much like a cognition labs like Devin started using what's called an actor critic method to generate code stubs for like common things that we'd want to go support with n number of new chains. So that opened up the door for us, these creator tools that we're using internally to help exponentially increase the number of chains that we're supporting month to month.
Cool. And you mentioned that you're using AI in all of this. So one question would be, what does AI enable that its predecessors haven't been able to do?
Yeah, I would say what's really cool about AI is essentially you have this really cool user interface that's very similar to maybe like a terminal-based interface in the past, where essentially you're capturing intents in natural language, where the user can ask in plain English, kind of like, hey, this is what I'd like to do. And then you have this like LLM that serves every kind of probability under the sun of like, hey, this is what I think this user is trying to do. And then you can kind of pull in some really cool data from external corpuses with RAG to kind of augment that LLM. And you can go one step further and create what's called a knowledge graph to map kind of these disparate agents that share memory work together to solve very complex intents that may span different chains, many different pieces of infrastructure. And then in this very kind of meta aggregator way, if any one of those kind of like nodes kind of break in that workflow, your fault tolerance is great because essentially you have an orchestration agent that can hot swap the failing node out for that same component. So I think there's a lot of different benefits we're seeing there.
Cool. So in terms of the actual application, you talked just now about how you're making all of these cross-chain integrations much more seamless. Maybe one thing that a lot of people would like to know is what are some specific use cases or success stories that you might have seen so far from the use of SphereOne, especially as we are seeing this whole shift towards layer 2, more chains, many more apps coming online?
Yeah, I would say that the first one that really kind of opened up the door for us was just this creator tool paradigm where essentially I can use some LLM to help me do research and create code stubs for something that I'm not super familiar with. Like it's kind of a tall order to have some engineer understand Move, Rust, and Solidity. So expand what one engineer can do, which is a pretty big superpower for a business. It also includes like, hey, I'd like to rewrite this smart contract from Solidity to Rust, and maybe I don't know Rust. And I don't think we're there where it's like 100% that you'd push that to prod, but it gets you about 70 to 80% there, which is great. It gives you a foundation to go take that across the line. So those creator tools is one category. I'd say another category is DeFi. Obviously, you can tie in a bunch of different protocols to do very interesting things. The one that we shipped just this week is an AI agent in collaboration with the TipLink team. And if you're not familiar with TipLink, essentially TipLink is this really cool protocol on Solana that allows you to send crypto to any email address. And you don't have to have a wallet or a notion of what crypto is or experience with crypto. You can just send crypto to an email address and it's as easy as that. And what was powerful about how we augmented that TipLink AI agent is we created this multi-agent workflow where essentially you could swap or bridge from other chains that were not supported natively within TipLink to expand the reach of that protocol. So now you can use Ethereum or you can use liquidity on Aptos to get into the TipLink protocol. And it's all self-contained in a single intent. So there's some cool stuff with that, payments, governance, hey, I'd like to have some agent kind of vote on behalf of me based on my yield aggregation and balancing treasury management. So we're seeing so many different use cases. It's really, really exciting.
One question that I had actually was, how do you handle scalability, especially if you're going to bring on a lot of new users in a very short amount of time?
Yeah, we have kind of two different types of deployments. We have a consumer-facing deployment, which is kind of like a ChatGPT interface where anybody can go play around with any of the agents that we've built. The other deployments are what we call edge deployments, where we go deploy specific agents on protocol pages. So an example, this would be like we have an agent deployed on Kinetics, or we have 5 different agents we deployed on Kinetics, which is the leading DEX and perps options trading platform on the Kava blockchain, which is essentially Cosmos-based chain. And essentially you can go interact with any of those protocols in natural language. It will help you navigate, getting into Kava because it's definitely a blockchain that a lot of people are maybe not super familiar with. So it's great in that regard. And then if you don't know anything about perps options trading, help kind of guide you through that and help execute any of those trades. So I think there's a lot of really interesting utility there with kind of those different types of deployments.
Cool. So looking forward into the future, right? What are the next immediate steps or future plans that you have for SphereOne that users, developers, and everyone in the crypto community alike can look forward to?
I would say, we're kind of doing these weekly GTM meetings with different customers, and then we're releasing agents weekly. So it's kind of like if you're interested in this, it's like we have a Discord, we have Twitter, where we kind of share updates, and then obviously we have our chat.sphereone.xyz, where essentially anybody can go in there and test out any of these agents in real time. I think building in public is probably the best way to garner trust and get feedback from customers. Kind of like given your last question on scale, I think you just need to put users in front of the protocol and just test it in real time and try to break it as much as you can. So, depending on like for these edge deployments, depending on the customer's needs, we can deploy specific models if somebody needs like a high TPS kind of response, like maybe a large wallet provider where they need low latency. Maybe you need to deploy a kind of like a Grok or Grok Cloud that might be less in vein of just, crypto ideal, like a ZK EVM or like a ZK ML model or something like that. That's a little bit slower, but is very transparent. So you can see those proofs, you can see what it's doing versus like Grok, it's highly performant, but maybe there's some questions on like what's actually happening behind the scenes for that. So I would say just build in real time. I'd say especially in the AI crypto space, there are a lot of folks that kind of like claim to do things. A lot of it may not be super material. We just want to be very transparent about what we're doing and ship stuff every week. May not be perfect. The community can help us kind of get to where we want to be. We see the community as like our biggest asset.
Yeah, we definitely need a lot more of that in the crypto space these days, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
Now, rounding off on a more personal note, how do you see the future of blockchain technology developing, especially within crypto itself, and what role do you see you playing ultimately?
I think so far everything has just been infrastructure. Like if you look at where the VC dollars go and what has been built and the emphasis on like what people are building, it's all infrastructure. And we just really need more forecasters of the world to kind of like go and build consumer facing things. Gaming is a big one there. I think there are some really cool projects there that will open the door, especially on mobile. Telegram is actually becoming an incredible distribution path for games. There's a game on Mantle called Catizen, and it's just like this very simple game. It's like a fast casual game, but it has millions of users and it's kind of this unassuming game, but they've had so much success just given mobile distribution. And they have some crypto elements as much as you can kind of incorporate into a mobile game. It's a little bit harder when you ship that through Apple or Google stores, especially because payments are all like embedded within some of the native protocols on that device. Apple Pays, obviously the big one there. So I think we need to move towards just consumer stuff. We need to make it really easy for people to use. People should really understand kind of like what chain they're operating on and have to understand how to use all these different disparate protocols. You need to abstract all that away, abstract the protocols away, abstract low level infra away, abstract chain to chain interactions away. So I think that's where we'll go. And I think that's why intents are so powerful. So you're just asking what you want to do, and kind of like the technology can either do it or not.
Yeah, so basically allowing anyone to use crypto without having to be crypto native in the first place. I think that's definitely how we're going to get the next million users into the crypto space, right?
Yeah.
Cool. That was Chris from SphereOne. Glad to have you on the show. If you want to check out their platform, links will be in the description down below. All in all, I hope you found this video informative and interesting. If you liked it, do leave a like down below and consider subscribing to this channel. And with all that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.